time for episode number 8.
Let's do this.
Is that right?
Oh.
Welcome. So, Terry.
Sorry, did we start?
Oh, we started.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, everyone.
We just go, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Vault.
Okay, great.
It's time to start. So we need to salute Terry.
Okay,
yep,
great.
yep.
Done.
Sweet Terry.
So pretend. So Terry, do you bless this podcast? Terry the Triceratops.
Oh, it's not working. I
Oh,
think we have
no.
to try harder.
Okay.
Really believe.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yes, it's gonna be a good one.
At some
Jeez,
point.
Terry.
Oh, it's gonna be a great one.
Wow. All right.
Oh.
If you are listening to this podcast, no, we don't know what's going on either. But Terry the Triceratops is our mascot for the Vault podcast, which you are welcome to as our team.
Yes.
It's so good to have you. The Vault is where you keep all of your most valuable things.
Like Pepsi Max.
Like
Like-
Pepsi Max, which
like
is repeating on me.
heartburn?
Like,
Is that what happened?
excuse
there?
me. And we're
And
so
velvet
welcome.
blazers. Is that
Welcome.
velvet?
It is
You're,
kind of velvet.
you're just
yeah.
a mess of a man
Yeah.
at the moment.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like I look well together.
You
put
look
well
great.
together.
You look great
That
on
was
the
just
outside.
a really just random out of nowhere sledge.
You look
Unbelievable.
great on the outside, but inside you're nothing but burps.
You could be
Oh.
listening to this on Spotify. You could be
Yeah.
listening to Apple Podcasts. You could be watching this on YouTube.
Was a bit harsh.
And we want to start with this thought that, hey, we really would love you to subscribe on YouTube,
Yeah.
even if you don't
Yes,
watch
please,
it, because
do.
we're trying to build that, and it's really awkward when you've got 100 subscribers. We have Hillsong Kids, which is for children channel. We have Funny Man Dan channel, which is for people who love Funny Man Dan, funnies.
gaming.
And we have this channel, Hillsong Leadership Plus, which is for grown-ups, for leaders in church, and for parents.
Yep.
And we're going to be doing pretty soon a parenting podcast.
I'm so excited.
We're going to focus
PP.
on parenting. We're going to get some questions for parents, not just for leaders in church.
Yeah.
To do with children. So,
I love
my name is Dave Wakerley. I'm your host. Dan Learcher is our fact checker,
Hello.
also
Fact.
the resident
You said fact,
fact checker.
not fat.
Fact
Not
checker.
fast checker.
He
Just-
weighs us at the beginning of each
Yes.
episode just to see if we put on weight.
And you both doing
Just see if I stopped in at KFC on the way.
you're both doing well.
Both doing well. Our BMI index is in the healthy
Let's
range.
just say Jess brings down our average.
Yeah,
Oh.
Thank you,
absolutely.
Jess.
What? Oh, like
Because
in a good
the
way.
Because you're not
BMI,
fat, Jess.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
because
Think
you're
of something else.
because you're practically perfect in every way.
Oh wow!
Wow.
What's that from?
Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
And we have Jess Mclean.
Hello.
Speaking of that, and who is the Hillsong Kids children's pastor, and we are excited to be here on episode number
Yes, we are.
8.
8.
8.
Can
So
you believe it?
Fact
Can
check?
you believe
Correct.
it? Wait, that's the name of our album.
That's the
not
name of
your
the
book.
album.
can you believe it is the name of the latest
And the
Hillsong Kids
book
album?
is If Only You Knew.
If only you knew.
If only you
Sponsored by the book. If only you knew. If only you knew. If only you knew. Now, where was I going before I got very confused and off track? Today, it was a really good point. I wanted to keep on going, making fact checking, catching up.
The thing I'll be tracking
Lead us
today
out.
for Jess is how many times she uses the wrong words. So that
Okay.
was 1.
Oh,
What did she say?
not snorts. This
No,
week.
snorts was last time. You had
Snorts
2.
last week. I had 2.
Yeah. So
Oh, that's what I wanted
That's
to
a
talk
pretty good
about.
day.
Yeah.
You guys remember last episode?
Yeah.
Yes.
If
The one we
if you're
just
not
recorded.
listening, if you're not watching this, I just got the 2 of the most blankest stares I've ever got. Like their whole brains just left their body. That was amazing. You guys remember episode 7,
Yes.
Yeah.
We do.
which was the first time we had an abundance of questions.
so many.
Yes.
That's what
Bring
I
it
wanted
on
to
again,
get to the
bring it on
point.
again.
Because only 2 episodes before that, we were like, nobody cares about the podcast.
Right.
And now people care. I have so many more
Yay,
questions.
So many more questions.
Which is amazing. And
Any
we're
from-
about to get to questions.
Any more from Tash?
Tash. If you were here last weekend, Tash won our email of the week, which gets a Funny Man Dan DVD.
Also, the record for the name said the most in one
100%.
podcast.
Yeah.
I hopefully you're listening, Tash, and you enjoyed that.
It was fantastic.
Yep, it works. But we're gonna. But here's what I've realised. In previous episodes, I've answered. We've talked about maybe 3 questions. Last week we got to 4 emails.
Whoa.
I've got to pick up the pace.
You've got to pick up the
do.
pace.
We need to get this
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
So before we start off, we just need to say that you are part of our team.
Yes,
and
you
we are a
are.
part of yours.
And it's an honour.
And it's an honour because we know that sometimes children's pastoring can be a lonely affair because you're working with kids. You're not working with peers your own age. You're working with kids. And so you can
Yeah.
kind of feel like you're doing this by yourself. But you're not.
No.
Because we are with you. I'm going to play a sound effect. No, I can't remember which one it is. I was going to get sound effects ready.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Oh,
I have the applause. You can't
Okay.
hear this.
Oh, okay.
If you're listening to the podcast, you'll hear the applause.
So it's all in
Nathan
your head.
and Jess can't because
Nathan and Jess?
I literally said
I feel responsible for saying bad things about you at the start. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Sorry, Dan and Jess can't hear the applause.
Dave, we've got a lot of questions, so let's be like a man on a diet and cut out the waffles.
Ooh.
Rosie Herald, team member Rosie Herald.
Hi, Rosie.
From Auckland, loving the new podcast. Thank you.
Hey, Rosie. Hello, Rose.
Please don't do a New Zealand accent.
Rosie.
In full disclosure, I am a New Zealander, Dan is a Tasmanian, and Jess is a Sydney-sider.
Yes.
Over the past year, we've experienced a season of amazing growth. Super exciting. We've got to the point in our primary age group, which is our elementary. Fact check.
Yes.
For Americans, we have too many kids, too many small groups to only have one boys or girls group per year group. So we're going to talk about small groups for kids, which at our church is called KDGs.
Yes.
Kids Discipleship Groups.
Good.
So she wants to know how your kids get split into their small groups at your larger campuses. When you have, for example, multiple groups that all have year 5 boys.
Oh, yeah.
And when a new child comes in, how do they know which group to go to? Do you have boys and girls separate, or do you have mixed groups?
Ooh, can I just say something really fun?
Please
Okay,
go.
so let's just take it to the absolute extreme. So at our Hills campus, which would be our largest campus,
It's big.
we actually have done something really fun, which there is this epic long schools list when you walk into any room.
Correct.
And
On the
on the
wall.
schools list, every school has a coloured tribe
Right,
next to
right.
it. And so there are 4 coloured tribes, and that shows the kids where to go. So that helps them find their KDG room. So that's where they play. Then they travel together to the worship experience, the large group formats, time, and then they go back to those rooms where the curriculum is out, and they split into a few groups within the tribe. With those leaders. So it at least gives them that home base of kids that they're traveling with for the morning, week in, week out, and across service times, because hopefully they will meet friends from their school or in their geographical area. That's
great.
kind of the idea.
Which is a nice idea.
So I think that tribes is a really fun idea. Like if you have, enough kids to start dividing it up
create,
more,
yeah.
why not create kind of like a team culture around it?
The fun thing about that is if a kid doesn't have their school listed on there, and that's a big celebration point. It's like, oh, you're our first person from that school,
Yeah.
and you can get to
And
know.
the list just keeps growing. It's so fun. But
Add
we
them
kind
to
of
the
have like a
list.
little map that we use to do that. But there's other ways you could break up tribes. But I find that every kid has a school or has a homeschool tribe.
There's a
that
homeschool
they
tribe
can
just
join,
separate.
and it's kind of a good way of dividing
Still
them
accepted.
up. It's just, I just think it's a good way of dividing them up because it's harder to do it with alphabetical stuff and
100%.
other weird ways.
Dan, you homeschool your kids. How do you feel about
Well,
that?
they go to Daphne Street Primary,
Right.
which is the name of the street that we live on.
Amazing. Do we need to beep that out? Because you might have paparazzi now.
Yes, well, just at random Daphne Streets around the country. Yeah.
There are lots of Daphne streets. Just people working their way through all the Daphne streets. Just say it a few more times. Daphne.
Daphne
so,
Street.
there's lots we can say about connect. I will say this
Near
about
Tash
small
Street.
groups. I will say this thought about small groups. Tash Street.
Wow.
Hey Tash, team member Tash, how you doing? Good to hear you. I will say this. You have to, out of all the things you need to be deliberate about in your children's ministry, small groups is one of the things you got to be so onto all the time, because they can disintegrate so quickly if you're not on top of it. You've got to make it a priority. And to be honest, here's the way that we approach it. We have kind of 2 teams in Hillsong Kids, our creative team and our pastoral team. Pastoral team wear T-shirts with their name tags. They're identifiable as leaders in the room. Their job is to 100% minister to children. Excuse me. Look, I'm using my microphone so you didn't capture the gas.
That's wow. Did
Pretty
you
nice,
know?
right?
Okay,
That's
good.
amazing.
So-
Good job.
Something else would be amazing is not to have gas.
I'm drinking our other sponsor,
Pepsi
Pepsi Max. So it's going to be tough not to do
Silently
that.
judging.
The other team is not silent when you say it. The other team is our creative team. Their job is to produce the experience up the front for praise and worship, for the screens, the media playback. So in terms of our 2 teams, we have those 2 together.
Yeah.
That means, in theory, that our pastoral team can 100% focus on the needs of every individual child. That was real Kiwi.
Yeah.
Every, because we're talking to
yes.
Rosie.
Yeah.
Every individual child and their specific, what they like, just kids, just hanging out with kids.
Totally.
Yeah.
Another important team position in that is the welcome team, because they're the ones that are going to identify that new kid and help bring attention to the fact that they don't have a group yet, or explain the process. Imagine if you had the most friendly people ever checking in the kids or welcoming the kids, as we like to call it, and then bringing them into the room and making sure they know where, like what leader to connect to later, what group they could be in. It's a really good team to build, the welcome team.
I love it.
I'm going to do something really, like, probably never being done on a kids ministry.
What's that, Dan?
I'm going to actually say something positive about the youth team.
What? Who are you? And what have you done with Dan the Archer?
If you want to learn how to do
you.
KDGs well,
Yes.
or small groups well, especially Hillsong Church, but a lot of times around other churches, is chat to your youth team. It is their lifeblood.
Yeah,
they had things
it's
called
true.
RDGs. It was their everything works from that.
Yep.
So a Friday service is what they have here. Is an expression of the fortnight.
It's a really good point.
KDGs.
Yeah.
You see them on the weekend. It's everything to them, and it's one of the best things they do.
And very pertinent right now, because we are going to the season where our kids are going to be graduating into youth. So right now, our youth leaders are actually coming and they're preaching in some of our weekend services.
Yep.
They're speaking to the kids. They're hanging out with those year 6 kids.
They volunteered at Kids Fest, which
They
is
even
cool.
volunteered.
For
Wow.
year 6
So
groups.
We want to take the kids who are connected, in our church. We want to make that transition super easy because it can be very, very interesting. And out of all the transitions in church life, it can be one of the trickiest.
Yeah. And by the way, everyone, we should, as a kids ministry, love the youth ministry.
100%.
Yes, very
Don't you
good.
reckon? Do you remember when we first started and the kids ministry and the youth ministry were like rivals?
Right.
And how things have changed
There are
so
st-
much?
oh,
and
yes,
how
definitely.
much better it feels?
Well, you want to have a good working relationship with the youth pastor and the team,
Yeah.
the people.
Aren't you related to the youth pastor?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
but it was more than that. My husband and
Yeah.
I came from youth. We were
Yes.
the ones that caused mischief for Dave and Becky when they
True
were
story.
doing kids. But then when we came from youth, it was like, we all started to, I don't know.
Yeah, it's and you've got to maintain that.
It's really
and just,
good.
If you haven't given, next time you come to the office, bring a coffee for your youth pastor. It'll do wonders.
Yeah.
Actually, it was Craig Johnson's in his book, Lead Vertically, talked about how he made it just a mission for his department, the kids department, to be the most useful and the most loved
Right.
So
team out of
good.
all departments. So whenever any other department was having a thing, they're putting on something or whatever, they were always the first to volunteer.
So
How do we help?
good.
And how do we
Yeah.
help? And that
Loan
has
stuff out,
that
even
is-
if it's going to get broken.
yeah. And then a little bit later, they then launched their new. They're in a basketball stadium, and he had to grow 1,000 volunteers in 12 months, and the whole church came and helped him out.
Amazing.
So
So,
it's,
good. Generous leadership.
One quick fact check: Elementary. You
Yes.
want to know what that was? It's an American television series,
No,
currently
No,
on
no,
season
Dan.
7.
Stop.
I think that's pronounced elementary.
Elementary.
Okay.
Oh, gosh.
There was more questions in here. By the way, Rosie, I feel like I already know who's going to get our Email of the Week award
Oh,
because
you
she's a
can't-
New
You
Zealander.
can't
can't
make
go
that
too
call so
early.
early.
Hey, you know what? I'm
Who do you
gonna.
think you are?
She's
The
good.
host?
Oh,
She's
no.
from Life Little
You
Friends
can't do
Life.
that, bro.
Oh
It's
god.
not fair to the others.
Neck a minute.
Oh my goodness.
You've won some plankton.
If international listeners, if you've ever wondered the difference between an Australian and a New Zealand accent, that wasn't it. All right. So there's a lot more we can talk about small groups.
There's just sickness and disease in
Again-
this room. Pray for us.
We're trying to get more. Sorry, Rosie. We could probably go more into depth, but
It's all right.
But you
I
know what?
thought that was
I've got to
pretty
get
good.
through questions.
Yeah.
If you weren't happy with your answer, then
Just
email us
write
back
again.
again.
Email us
Rosie,
back
you're
at
awesome.
Editor's notes.
feedback at nowhere. the vault at
Hillsong.com. Maria, say hello to Maria.
Hello, Maria.
I didn't say sing it, and it's the wrong melody.
I love
I
you,
don't
Maria.
know.
That's the wrong one.
Maria.
No musical gift to you.
That's your favorite. That's your favorite.
One of my favorite musicals.
Yeah.
I just met a
just
girl
tell us the
named
question.
Maria. Oh gosh,
what?
Jess is
Oh
getting
wow.
tense. It's getting tense
We're
in here.
taking turns being
My
cranky.
goodness.
It's amazing.
The kids team at my church doesn't really have a worship creative team yet.
We'll get one.
We
Next
get it.
question. Is that all right, Jess?
We're working on it, but meantime, the MC team has taken the task of leading worship every weekend. There's one person per service that does this, and they have no creative background whatsoever. Ooh. So my question is, the MC team leader, what would you focus on communicating to your team, and how do you create a culture of praise and creativity within the pastoral team? Well, I just talked about having two separate teams, and I think that's really the way forward. All you need for a creative team to kick off is a couple of things. My wife, Becky, always recommends this. It's not something you would think, but it's something that's important, is you need a run sheet.
Yes,
she started talking about this because a creative team needs if you're just hanging out with kids and you just wanted there to talk to them a minute, you don't need an order of service, right? You don't need a run sheet. But if you're going to do something creative, the first step is let's organize it. Let's make a structure with which to push together.
Yep.
If you don't have that, don't even try and get creative team because they're just going to flounder. They're going to go, what do we do next? Mm-hmm. What do we do now? So that's our unexpected advice to start off with. Mm-hmm. And then the next level is all you need for a creative team is one person who can sing and lead them in praise and worship, nothing else. And if you can find that one person, you are winning, would you say?
Yeah, totally.
Now, I'm sure we've all got some funny stories about one time in the collective 45 years of kids ministry.
Where we led worship.
We've led worship, stupid. Yes. Yep. Have you led worship?
Oh my gosh, this is ironic because on Sunday I was at a smaller location and I walked in and they had the volume really low because they didn't want to upset youth because youth were next door.
Oh gosh.
And all the kids were just standing there and the lights were so bright and I'm like, oh my gosh, let's turn off one light. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, okay, I didn't know what to do. So I'm like, dance circle everybody. And so we got them all into a circle. Just to get them moving, just to like reassess the situation, and then got them all jumping, and then made up some actions, and then got them back into the middle. And yes, I led 3 songs.
Awesome! Did you turn up the volume?
Yes, turn the volume up very, very loud.
I love
amazing.
it.
And,
yeah, the last people you need to worry about is being louder than youth.
And then you know what? It brought good conversations because my daughter was in the room and her friend, and I know that the week before they led worship. Because it's a very small location. There's not really a team for that yet. So year 6s is a great place to start.
Yes.
But they were just standing there like staring like dead fish. And I
dead fish.
Dead fish. No one wants dead fish.
No.
So it brought up really good conversations. Like you guys know you can add so much to the atmosphere if you would just like use initiative and contribute and blah blah blah. But it made me think young people need structure, exactly like you said.
Yep,
they needed to know what songs were going to be chosen before it even started and all that kind of stuff, and they just need to be resourced.
Oh, 100%. That's really good. So a good place to start, yes, as you mentioned, is with young people themselves. Mm-hmm. Say hello to team member Isaac and Rachel from Glow Church.
Oh, yeah, Rachel.
Hi, Isaac.
We love Isaac and Rachel. Hi, you guys.
I was there 4 days ago.
4 days ago.
And I met their video team, and they do this thing called... What's it called? The skinny? No, I forgot.
Oh,
the
Rachel
scoop.
Was a funny as.
They do the scoop, which is like a little video to help people feel welcome. And I was just randomly chatting, like, oh, that's funny. You should do one like this. And he goes, could you please do one with us? So the next thing I know, I was filming at their new location.
That funny one that Rachel did?
No, so yes, one of those.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, it's cool. It's
amazing.
What was the question?
We have 2. What does Kidmin look like in 10 years?
Oh,
Great question. Holy moly.
Drop the mic.
That is literally 5 of my
so I don't know how to drop
of my strengths right there.
Yeah,
talking about that. And number 2 is a way to connect parents with what you're ministering to their kids in midweek devotion for their kids.
Oh, yeah.
Parents hating the take-home paper. Hallelujah. We get it. How to effectively do this with social media. All right, look, I actually want to spend the rest of the episode on this question.
Do it.
Really? But I've got so many, Jess. All right. Yeah. Well, let's start with connecting with parents because we've talked about it a little bit before. Where do you start with that? It's the trickiest thing on earth. It's the hardest thing to get right, and you have to be on it all the time and trying new things. Yeah. Our church really loves Instagram.
We do.
And so we focus on Instagram. In fact, some people think that's the only social media thing that we do because that's what our pastors Brian and Bobby love, and it's what our church leans into. So we just really focus on making that great. And you should follow Hillsong Kids at Instagram.com.
Instagram.com.
Wow.
That is not the
on
link.
Instagram.
Instagram.com/Hillsong Kids.
So follow us on Instagram.
It's not an email address.
I was in the zone of saying the vault. By the way, email us questions at the vault.
Yes,
at Hillsong.com.
We've got so many questions. People care about us, guys. We're feeling loved. So
we're on a good journey with this.
Oh, it's
I
great.
feel really good about the steps that we've taken to communicate with parents.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So but also you don't want to throw many things at them. You want to really focus your strategy on something. So Hillsong Kids for us isn't interesting because our Instagram account is not so much about local. It's about global, because Hillsong Kids puts out curriculum and music, and we want to encourage kids, not just parents, so it's more of a big picture thing. Then each of our states in Australia has a separate Instagram account.
Yeah, they do.
Hillsong Kids Victoria, New South Wales, Tasmania, etc., etc., etc. Okay.
And we do state-based events, by the way.
And we do state-based events. So what we do is we encourage our parents and say, hey, listen, if you want to know what's going on in Hillsong Kids, this is what you do. This is the best place to follow us. In fact, if you don't do anything else, just follow this.
And on our bi-monthly card that we hand out, which has a magnet on the back, and like we described last week, a QR code for kids to enter a competition if they go to our website. But anyway, on the bi-monthly card are all our social media handles.
100%,
We
yes.
wanna point
Do
to
listen to last week's episode if you want to hear
Yeah.
about what we do to engage kids and give them prizes and stuff like that. So that's.
But I'm most excited because when we had when we realised that our database, it wasn't going to be as easy to communicate with families in bulk as what it
That's
had
a nice
been
way
in
of
the
saying it.
past. We decided that we wanted to engage the core of our church. So who are the core of our church? Well, that would be the parents that want their kids to be leaders. So our junior leadership program. And that would be kids who lean into opportunities for their kids to be discipled, like parents that register for summer camp, parents that sign up their kids for KDG Plus, which is our discipleship, like home discipleship program where they can get devotional content and journal. Anyway, so all those parents that lean into that, we see that as our absolute core, that if we want to steer the ship, if we want to engage with a group of families, that would be the top one. And all our events, we make sure that the indemnity for those events is good
Covers
so that we
photographs.
can communicate. It covers photographs, and we can communicate with those families well.
Yes.
So we're trying to do that basic stuff with our core right.
Absolutely.
Yes, and that's why we're excited to launch our parenting podcast.
Yes. Well, we don't have no idea what that looks like
We
yet,
don't
but
even
we're
know.
going to do something.
But we feel like
Well, hey, people want to hear it, so and we're definitely going to get
I
other
feel like our
experts
core will
in.
be into it.
So
Tash will love it.
It's and Tash will love it. Isaac and Rachel, hopefully you love it. So, I mean, that's what we say is what we did. I guess to sum that up, Jess, for teaching kids how to serve in church, we have JLP, Junior Leadership Program.
Yep.
So that's something that we do, and that's not a program that we run. It's just during church.
Yep.
Again, don't start something new, a new program, when you can integrate it into your weekend
Yes.
services. KDG Plus, we say we need to teach kids how to do devotion, how to read the Bible. That's what we do. It's integrated into church because we literally say take notes every time you come to church. It's also midweek, so kids and parents will work, read, hopefully engage around the Bible midweek. But it's
Yep.
not another program.
Yep.
We're just doing something that hopefully they can integrate into their life.
Yep.
We have no space for other programs at Hillsong
Nope.
Church, and we don't want to start another one because it sometimes can diminish what you're trying to do. So, again, big picture, look at the topics, look at the things that kids need, look at the big things. Devotion, discipleship, leadership, and go, well, what can we do to address those big things? All right. What does Kidmin look like in 10 years? Holy moly. I don't know where to start with that one.
Well,
There's so many things.
I did a quick search
You
for what
fact
the
checking,
world
yes.
look like in 10 years.
Yes.
There's just a lot of really bad people's predictions about
is the planet's going to
government
overheat?
crumbling and all that sort of stuff. But there's some, this is interesting, 5 technologies
Yep.
that could happen in 2030. They're saying goodbye to your screens. Things may very much be implanted.
What?
Real pet,
What?
fake pets,
Fake pets.
robot pets,
Right.
right?
That makes sense.
That don't die. Biofactoring is going to be something that'll be growing deathless meat, and also growing all sorts of stuff.
I'm so creeped
But
out.
yeah,
right
the
now.
age of implantables and ads are not going away. Things are going
Right.
crazy. So what I'm thinking
Yeah, go on, Dan.
is my prediction is at some point there's going to be a shift between can we get the newest and latest things in church to the point where we'll actually take a step back and actually offer genuine connection, and that's going to be a rarity. So if you look back 5-10 years, having video games at your church was a rarity. Like things weren't easily accessible. Having flashing lights and
Right.
toys and all that sort of stuff. Things are a lot cheaper now. You get everything on demand. So things are in the home. So we're actually going to have to look at ways where we can deliver
Yeah,
something
that's
that they
true.
can't get,
Which is belonging, right?
which is belonging. So my prediction in 10 years we'll actually have less stuff, but more
Potentially, yeah.
Wow.
more
Or-
opportunities
yeah.
to connect.
I think you're right on there. There is, for example, the cameras that we're using to film this, the equipment that I'm using. We've just bought a bunch of new equipment for our ministry, and the quality of what I get compared to when I started this 10 years ago, when we started filming, and your husband Nathan and Jess and I would film on this little camera. I don't even know what we were using. It was a handy cam with tape in it. It had a tape in it. That's what it was. That's what I started with. And we would edit on DVDs. I would have to get DVDs to all of our locations.
Yes. Oh, and I would duplicate them. Do you remember that 6 months when I had to duplicate them?
I've blocked it out of my mind, Jess.
Oh my gosh, then I had to post them. Oh, it was
So we
horrible.
would literally send DVDs around to all of our locations, and it was a nightmare because we had to burn them, and I would spend. So think of the pace of technology is, but here's the tricky thing. But there's so much people creating content. There's almost like a flood of it. And so this, for example, our podcast is not new. This is one of millions of podcasts. And the reason we do it,
I thought we were special.
no, this is not special at all.
We've got Terry
We do have to, no one else has Terry.
And Tash.
and Tash. Terry and Tash.
There is nothing. We are just adding. In one way, you could look at us and go, "Oh, another kids ministry podcast." Oh, adding to the noise. Well, we wouldn't do this unless we felt like God wanted it. Like we don't do things by halves. We want to go all in.
Yep.
Which is part of the reason we got lots of gear and we invested in it because we believe we've got something to
That's
say.
good. You did great.
So I guess what I'm saying is
But
that
wait, so the gear, we could easily shoot movies on this.
100%.
Where it would have cost hundreds of thousands
Yes.
of dollars.
That
The,
is insane.
the editing software is the same thing they make.
Yes, we use the same
Marvel
editing
movies
as
on.
Hollywood movies. It's the democratization of technology, and so everybody can make content. And I'm interesting to see what happens in the future, because when there's so much noise that people, I don't know, I find that interesting.
You're doing something cutting edge on a Sunday, Dave.
I am
Something
doing,
that
yes.
I don't know if anyone else is doing.
We for the last 5 weeks, I've been test running a live stream for kids during our online church service. So we have an 11:30 in Australia, 11:30 and a 6 p.m. service that we do live streamed for our online campus. People who want to connect with us but don't live within driving distance of a Hillsong church. And we say, come to church online. It's our online campus. And so I've been doing a kids version of that at the same time with my son, Brooklyn. We've been doing a live stream at the same time as one of those church services at 11:36. So, and that's pretty cool. And it's just a test at the moment. But I do think that that's a potential way to connect with our kids on a greater, what's the word? A social level, relational level, is actually interact with them online,
Like
which
maybe
is tricky.
one day we'll be there for them midweek when they're
Yes.
facing challenges,
That's
but in
what-
a safe way.
100%. If we can
mind
find a
blowing,
way to
but-
connect with our kids online midweek without the need of a physical, them physically coming in, that would be amazing. But so many questions, so many dangers, so many potential pitfalls when you're connecting with kids online.
There's going to be a lot of imitations in the future. There will be bots that will respond
Like-
to you. There will be
Oh
all
my
sorts of
gosh.
stuff. There will be a lot of unauthentic
Connection. Yeah.
Wow.
and so that's where we
Like
need
imagine
to.
if there were 10 kids going through divorce
Right.
and we could catch up with them and
Yeah.
do like a small group online
Yeah, totally.
that helped them process that.
100%.
At
It's
a time
exactly-
that worked for them, because those custody issues, it's hard. Anyway, oh my gosh.
I love it.
There's cool
So the-
opportunities in the future.
So I do think it's related. The future of the church is relational, because so many young people today suffer with loneliness and depression. And what is it like? They just feel isolated.
Lack of belonging.
It's like that's exactly what the church is literally here on earth
Yeah.
for.
Well,
So
that's
Totally.
why they said in the
100%.
Bible, do not give up the habit of meeting together.
100%.
That is very much true today and in 10 years.
Absolutely. We're doing great, guys. We're not getting through these questions
great
at
question,
all.
Rachel and
Isaac,
It was Rachel
Glow.
and Isaac from
Rachel
Glow.
and Glow.
Rachel and Glow. Good job, Glowy.
Glowy.
Say hello to team member Ellie.
hi, Ellie.
Just started listening to your podcast, as everybody has, and
Like-
so thankful. I love it. Thank you so much for saying so. How did you get started? I'm assuming but it says, how do you started your leadership teams? How many tiers of leadership do you have? How do you continually cast vision to them? How much do you expect from a volunteer leader?
Whoa.
These
Can
are
we
great
just
questions.
remind everyone, like Hillsong Kids Australia
Yes.
has such varying sizes.
Oh, yes.
And it's always good for that to be remembered when we're having these conversations, because there's some locations which Bondi has grown so much, but it would probably be our smallest kids location, I reckon.
Right.
Right through to the Hills campus, which has like a multi-level building, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Full of kids, jam-packed. But it's just important to remember that. But we generally try and keep the same structure across everything.
Absolutely.
Quick funny story. I was at the 7 p.m. service right here in the city campus in Waterloo.
Yeah.
And the guy running it, named Carlos, friend of us, shout out to Carlos, he did the upstairs and came down and there was no one else, so he just ran the service. So he did the full 40-minute service in 7 minutes. He went, this, blah, blah, did the song, did the this, blah. There was 2 kids there. There was another leader in the room and a kid, and then his kid. And he did it in Brazilian because the other kid was Brazilian, right? In Portuguese.
Yep.
And then afterwards I'm like, isn't that funny how'd you know that little 2-year-old was Portuguese? He's like, oh, it's the daughter of the mother that was there. I'm like, I'm sorry, the 2 kids were yours and the other leaders.
Amazing.
That is hilarious.
What are you doing?
That's service. Service with a smile.
That's awesome.
Too funny. Wow.
So let's.
But it was his moment to do it in Portuguese. I bet he's been waiting, hanging out for that.
It was great.
Yeah. But
All
okay,
go.
so everyone has a location oversight.
Correct.
So we invest into those location oversights. So once a year we get everyone together. We invite everyone to something we call Input Week, where we'll do upskilling and we'll just do fellowship. We will get together once a month online with all our location oversights, and we'll record that so it's accessible if they want to share that with people, and our global churches can utilize that. A monthly email. But anyway, that's our location oversights. And then we have often team leaders or service oversights, depending on where your campus is at. But team leaders are just the lifeblood of Hillsong Kids, right?
Absolutely.
Like, they're the ones that connect the team together and make it feel like family.
And I would say our entire children's ministry is structured around key teams.
Yes.
So we want every one of those location oversights needs a key team.
Yes, they do. And they need to meet with them fortnightly, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely. And because if you've got a strong core key team, everything flows out of that. And you don't even need, again, it's not just about, hey, throwing the curtain open and going, hey, everybody come and be part of my key team. No, you really want to grow that organically and slowly and go, this is the level of commitment you need to be a part of this. But in this, what you will be doing for growing our church and hopefully fulfilling the call of God on your life, that is what is powerful.
And key team members, you want someone who wants to stretch and grow.
Correct.
Who wants to lead. You don't necessarily want high availability, because sometimes high availability can relate to low capacity. Sometimes the busiest people have a high capacity. Do you get what I mean? Like they can add more into their world and do it really well. Just make sure that you're choosing
Don't be
leaders.
afraid to ask a busy volunteer.
Yes, exactly. Some of our best team leaders have been business owners,
definitely
CEOs,
things
lawyers.
going on, but they know that part of their calling is to, and to be honest, it could be the most exciting thing in their week when they know they're fulfilling the call of God on their life.
Yeah.
And we've been doing this long enough to know that you might be thinking, yeah, that sounds great. I just need a key team. I have nobody. But what I've found over many, many years is just knowing what you need is the first step. One, you can pray it in. But 2, you'll be on the lookout for it.
Exactly.
I need a key team. Well, that's what you need. So then start looking for it. And then it's the whole thing of when you buy a certain type of car, you'll see it out there. If you know what it is, you know what it looks like, you'll be able to find it.
Put something on your wall with an empty box for every name that you need to fill.
Yeah.
Be very, very specific and know exactly what you need. Have a goal in mind, not just some nebulous idea of growing a team.
And our other big interesting team thing is we try and, when the campus is ready, have a creative team and a pastoral team, like what we talked about last week. That's a huge thing, to have people that are fully responsible for the platform and the firing of the media and the run sheet and that whole upfront experience.
Or an MC that likes to sing.
Or a campus pastor who goes to the bathroom and
Yes.
then ends up leading worship. Funny.
Okay. So, Melanie, say hello to Melanie.
Hi, Melanie.
Team member Melanie. This is
Is this our 5th question?
I don't know. I'm getting through them.
We may be on this.
We're almost done, everybody.
Go,
We're
Melanie,
almost
go.
We've never
Thanks
done
for
this.
here's the first question. why was the podcast called Episode 5 Getting Heckled While Preaching?
Yeah, why was it?
Because we were talking about getting heckled while preaching.
Did we?
Yes. Near the end, we go, remember, when a kid yells out and they keep talking. So it was getting heckled while preaching.
Oh.
Heckled, you know what the word heckled means?
Yeah, heckled. Like, yeah. Totally.
So, yeah, we literally...
I think it's very Aussie, though.
A total... Well, no, heckling
heckled
is an American, like definitely American, like a global term. Like
Okay.
stand-up comedians get heckled all the time.
Yes,
A heckler is a person who harasses and tries to disconnect others with questions, challenges, or gibes.
Gibes.
What's
Word of the
G-I-B-E-S?
day. Gibes.
No, it's definitely an American word because
Well, I think
comedians deal with hecklers all the time.
Yeah,
that's,
totally.
that's one of the
if you Google
things they're
comedians and hecklers, you'll get a lot of funny videos online.
saying. Comedians destroying hecklers.
Yep. So thanks for the shout out for Mel. She's changing lives in the GWS. That was a shout out we did a few weeks ago. Love it. Shout out to the service team at lots of shout outs. The service team at Kids Fest. So Mel is part of our team at GWS. Especially shout out to Annie Gray
Yeah, Annie.
for whatever you call the role on stage. Her and Ben were really funny.
Oh, she was Chef Spaghetti and Ben was
Oh, that's
Carnival
right.
Carl.
Oh, that's funny.
That was
They're
part
in
of your
Europe.
show.
Wow.
She wants
Who?
a shout out to Funny Man
Annie
Dan.
and Ben. They're in Europe at the moment.
Different Ben.
No,
We're talking
Ben,
about Ben
Gray.
Dunn.
No, we're talking about Ben
yes.
Gray.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
Yeah,
assuming it says
We're talking
Annie
about
Gray.
Annie and Ben.
It's Annie and Ben.
No, but who she's talking about is
Okay.
Annie and Ben.
Come
Dunn.
back to me.
Okay, come
We
on.
don't
why,
know.
Why is Annie and
Focus,
Ben Dunn?
Fox. So, a shout out to Funny Man Dan.
Oh, thank you.
Shout out to the worship team. Shout out to Jess.
She's just a
You
shout
just
out
added
to
that in.
Dave.
She didn't even shout out to
No,
me, did she?
true
You
story.
just added it in.
Says, look, Funny Man Dan, worship team, and Jess.
To be fair,
No, Dave.
To be fair, you
I
didn't
feel
do
included.
much at Kids Fest.
I didn't.
You
I
were
was
behind the scenes, man.
I was making things
You made
happen
my
behind the scenes.
preaching epic.
100%.
You made my things good too.
I did. I saved the day.
Yeah.
Kind of.
No, with the Murray making.
Oh, yeah, we
I
did.
used like a world record amount of props, didn't I? Like I beat Dan
Yeah.
with how many?
I
props
wrote a 3-page script with props props galore. They made a train for
And
me and
I
you still
had
beat
more
me.
props than you, but no documentation, which is why people were confused.
So much-
No jokes. There was a little bit. Of
So much
documentation.
confusion. So,
It turned out good.
okay. So
great.
Annie. So that's it. She just wanted a shout out, basically.
Oh,
You know
Love
what?
it.
Does that count
You
as
know
an
what?
answered
You can
question?
write in
That's
any week.
That count. Yeah, 100%. So
Yeah.
if you have questions for us, also we don't just want questions. We want a testimony. If you've heard something in the vault, the wisdom from the vault that makes your ministry better, then let us know.
Yes.
Also, if any of the questions that answers, if you have something to add to that, please feel free to answer any questions from any previous episode.
If you've got insight, that
Insight.
can help our
because
team.
we're all
Bring it.
part of the team.
We're
Bring
part of the
it.
team.
Yeah.
We're better together.
So we've done I've done so many shout outs there. So I think we've done all the shout outs from Mel there.
Just- you
She
Yeah.
wins that.
Shout outs. Tick.
We
job,
do need
Jen.
to choose email
Oh.
of the week for a DVD, a digital DVD. I kind of want to do. I just think I did nominate Rosie
Yep.
Right.
from Life NZ.
Rachel and Isaac. That was pretty deep.
Rachel and Isaac was pretty good. And then so I think what do you think? Remember it was about KDG's Dan. It is your prize to give away. I think the nominations are for Rosie and for Isaac and Rachel.
Time to flip a coin.
Okay, he's going to flip a coin.
Okay.
That's how professional we are.
Oh wow.
Heads, Isaac, Rachel.
Tails.
Sorry.
Rosie.
It's landed on heads, but we're going to give it to Rosie anyway. I think I gave them a DVD when I saw them 4 days
yeah.
ago.
Well, you
Like, we really like them.
Okay, listen.
feel
This
like
is
it was
You
information.
know what?
Amazing.
I'm giving it to them both.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing. When
I
they
just
can,
want to know if Rosie rides a scooter to the dairy. That's what I want to know.
Rosie, do you ride a scooter to the dairy? Email us and let us
Email
know.
us back.
If you're a International Fact Check Dairy is a convenience store, a corner store here.
A little fact check. Yes, Dave and I have no idea what Jess is talking about.
Thank you for listening and watching the Vault podcast. Visit our YouTube channel and subscribe, please. There, we need to grow that. The Hillsong Kids leadership. Subscribe to Hillsong Kids for kids content.
it.
Subscribe to Funny Man Dan for funny content.
Do it.
And we'll see you next time on the Vault. Bye, everybody.